Segment 2, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a production of Sonny Hersh and myself. By the way, this is my official elect Michael Bender pencil. And isn't this cool? Like for a judge, you know, you got a little gavel here with the different erasers and stuff. Anyway, as many mistakes as I make when I write, I'll love the two erasers. You can dial us up on the World Wide Web at www.ntnm.org. CAPS24.org for community policing. Find out where all the CAPS meetings are in your neighborhood. If you live in Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, Westridge. I'm trying to keep correcting that. And we call it the Northtown News Magazine, and it ain't Northtown anymore either. And, of course, a little bit of Edgewater. So caps24.org. For the rest of the city, call 311. It is a pleasure to have the executive director of the Rogers Park Community Council. We don't really have any real community councils in the 50th Ward these days, but it's nice that Rogers Park has one, and a very good one. And that is the Rogers Park Community Council and the executive director, Elizabeth A. Vitell. 1 T, 2 L's. Elizabeth, how are you?
Good, Avi. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure, and that's my way of apologizing for misspelling her name the last time she was on the show. I'm a big Tour de France man, and there's a different Vitell that spells it the other way that's a sponsor this year. And I keep seeing it, and it just twists my mind as I cheer for Lance Armstrong.
No problem.
So what is the Rogers Park Community Council up to these days?
Well, the Rogers Park Community Council, as always, we have a variety of social programs that I'm sure you're aware of, and so are your viewers. We have a senior program. We have a multicultural resource center where we help our newest neighbors in Rogers Park. We have also a domestic violence program that's unique to the city, the Victim Advocacy Support Program, VASP. And we have a new sort of mission that I'm on anyway, that I was hoping to spend a few minutes telling you about, which is the Census 2010 Complete Count Committee. There's a lot of alliteration there.
A lot of alliteration.
I know you appreciate that.
No, I as an Edgar, I am an Edgar Allan Poe fan, and he uses alliteration so beautifully in his poetry. It's not even funny. One of these days, I actually need to recite The Raven and just make that a segment on the show.
Or Annabelle Lee.
That would be good also. I've actually performed The Raven in grammar school, high school, and college more than once in various speech classes and oral recitations and all the rest of it.
Well, there you go.
Once Upon a Midnight Dreary. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So in 2000, as you know, we had a census. The results of that census were pathetic for Rogers Park and the Westridge communities. Rogers Park, I actually made some notes because I don't want to get this wrong. Rogers Park's final response rate was 53%.
Wow.
And Westridge did a little better at 62%. And I don't know if people are aware of this because I certainly wasn't until I started researching it. But the Constitution mandates a census every 10 years.
Right.
For the purpose of making sure that people are properly represented in Congress according to their numbers. And in 2000, we lost a seat.
Yes,
in
the
Illinois.
state of Illinois, right.
Yes.
And we've been losing them.
And we will continue
At one time, we had 26 representatives, 2 senators, and 24 congresspeople. That was in 1960. And we have, I think, what are we down to, 18 or 16 now?
And it could be 15 or even 14 if we continue along this road of really bad response time, or response, which is sending the form back in. So we're on a mission with some of the other community organizations to make sure that as many people as possible really do get that form back, because it means money to the neighborhood.
Yes, it does.
It means education grants. It's the WIC program. The Women, Infant, and Children Food Grants are funded by according to census responses.
Which is very important, and as a matter of fact, I know because I know people that are on it, and there's people, and when I go to the stores, people have their WIC cards. That's how they get their milk and their cheese and the essentials for their kids.
Absolutely. It's so important, and also programs for the elderly, homelessness programs, emergency medical, everything that comes from the federal government through HUD or any of the other federal agencies is ultimately based on these figures, and they're horribly skewed. So why is that? We think it's partly because of right now the economic crisis is going to make it worse because there's homelessness that didn't exist before. But we think last time in 2000 the problem was the immigrant population did not want to send back the form for fear of some kind of reprisal from other government entities like immigration.
Which actually did happen, especially after September 11th. In this area, there were a whole lot of Indians that all of a sudden wound up leaving, Indians and Pakistanis that wound up leaving the community in Westridge.
And that might have been because of backlash from the 9/11 events, but it has nothing to do with the census. Nothing whatsoever.
No, because the immigration department doesn't work with the census people at all. As a matter of fact, there was Indians and I had those people on for the census 10 years ago. I mean, 9 years ago at this point.
And I hope they were encouraging their neighbors to respond.
They were. As a matter of fact, you know what? After the show, I'll show you. I still have my Census 2000 bag. I have a Census 2000 shirt, which I never wore. A Census 2000 water bottle.
Well, I almost brought you a Census 2010 water bottle, so I'll have to bring that to you next time.
I would like that.
So you
Thank
can
you.
have
Yes,
it for
I could use one. That would be great. Thank you. I will try. By the way, just for the purposes of complete openness and honesty, some of the guests on this show are bribed with fresh herbs and vegetables, pesticide-free from the backyard, and that water bottle will earn you a lot more basil when you run out from today.
That's great. I should have brought it. I'm just kicking myself. But
well, you'll get extra basil as a result.
But not to hammer too hard on this point, but actually, the Census Bureau is prohibited by law from sharing the information with other agencies. They can only share it the way it's mandated. It's a big point, and I really want people to know this, that if responding to the census is followed by some sort of police activity, these are unrelated events. They really, really are. And you really, by not sending the form in, we're only hurting ourselves. Because all of these government programs are coming from these responses, and 53% it's shameful. It's absolutely shameful, and we really need to correct that. So from now until March of next year, because the census actually starts, it's April, we at the Community Council are going to be spending a lot of time working on familiarizing people with the form so that it's not scary and alien, to coin a term, when it comes. The more
That's
you
actually
see
an
it,
interesting use of words.
well, if you see the form a lot, and it looks familiar to you, like the IRS form, which is another agency that is not shared any information by the census.
Oh,
not the
good.
police, not IRS, not INS, none of those. So this is going to be the first of many stump speeches that I'm going to make about the census and filling out the form.
So that's a big thing. Now, the government usually recruits also for workers and things like that within neighborhoods. I know last time there were a number, Colleen Kahn is the name Sonny mentioned, was the person from our neighborhood that was pushing the census.
And they are going to be, I think, a lot more mindful in this year or next year about having people from the neighborhoods who speak the languages, because the census workers who go out, that actually is a follow-up to when people don't return their forms. So it's the second tier. The first tier is the mailing, and you get your form, you fill it out, then it's all good. But if you don't, you might get a visit. And this is where we're also trying to be extra sensitive to not having people who just don't look like they even belong in a given neighborhood coming in and knocking on people's door saying, "Where's your form?"
Well, actually, in this neighborhood, it's the white people who look like they don't belong. That's another story.
Well, the other thing is, too, that the form this year has been shortened to only 10 questions.
Yeah.
So it's
Really?
not going to take that long. And there are going to be centers, help centers that are going to be set up around the city, and we're going to try to be one at the Community Council at 1530 West Moores so that people can come in and look at the form
Where?
ahead
So
of time.
1530, it's a half a block east of Ashland.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, we're just on right off the alley in between, right before Ashland. But yeah, so we're going to do that and just provide whatever support and assistance we can to get people to realize how important this really is to them. I mean, we're talking daycare and all kinds of federally funded programs that will continue to fall if we don't do the census correctly, and we really can't afford to lose any more programs.
No, and this is such an easy way that, I mean, the money's out there anyway. And it's there to be claimed, and they're just hurting themselves. People are shooting themselves in the foot by not representing themselves.
Absolutely, and especially when you think about the fact that the census mandates, the Constitution mandates the count of all people. They don't ask what your legal status is. And in the Constitution, it actually talks about indentured servants. We're also counted.
Okay,
In the initial, so it's just interesting that even if you don't vote, even if you aren't a registered voter, the number of yourself and your family members still impacts on the enfranchisement of the state as a whole.
Yeah.
So it's
very
super important.
Okay.
Yeah.
More on the census. You've got about 3.5 minutes.
Well, I don't want to bore people, but
That's not boring. That's a very interesting thing, and I'm glad you brought it up. And it's important that people represent themselves. There's no question about it.
I think it really is, and I'm very impressed with the organization of the government, how they're getting out the effort in a very grassroots way, which is, I think, another problem that they had last time. Even though there were local representatives, this time they're trying to get the buy-in of community groups and local residents so that it isn't just the man coming in saying, all right, people, you gotta return those forms.
Yeah.
Instead, we have a community partner liaison who is an employee of the U.S. Census Bureau, but he comes to our meetings and sort of just sets the tone or guides, but we have to come up with the ideas, we have to come up with the drive to do it. And I think that the only way to get people to do things is to communicate a genuine passion for the issue. And we're not paid to do it, so.
No, they're going to have to, no, that's extra, but that'll definitely benefit the other things you have going. How many people work for the Rogers Park Community Council?
Well, we've had some program cuts, and so we're down to only a handful. I think we're at 8 people now at the Community Council. The Community Development Corporation is at 7. They're mostly...
That's what formerly was DevCorp?
No, DevCorp is actually... DevCorp is a separate organization, but they just changed their name.
Yeah, that's why I got confused, and that's why
Rogers Park Business Alliance.
Okay.
Yeah. They're our neighbor, though. They're right across the street now from us, or down the street on the corner of Morse and Greenview.
So I was wondering if they were doing that to help make Morse a better street.
Well, Morse is a great street already.
Yeah. Well, I know you like it, and you're within shouting distance yourself over there. How's the new Morse Theater? It's supposed to be reopened soon.
Well, I hope so. I haven't seen any signs of it, though.
Yeah. Well, I was meant to have Joe Moore on. That actually is going to air in a few days after the show. And he was talking about how things have been worked out between the two.
Oh, that's great.
Two individuals, and they've set a target date for a reopening.
Well, that's wonderful. That's great news. If we hear about it officially, we can start publicizing it.
I'll send you the YouTube link. He's already on YouTube talking about it.
Great.
And so if people, so you want to give us we've got about a minute here. So, okay, what do you want to talk about in a minute? Want to give us a summary of the Rogers Park Community Council? Or?
Beyond what I already said, I don't know, but what more I can add, but I do want to mention, depending on when we're airing, that there's the Glenwood Arts Fest. Okay, the Glenwood Arts Fest will not have happened yet. That's the 22nd and 23rd of August.
No, you're fine. Your timing is fine.
That's great. So that's right on Glenwood and Morse. That's the center of it, and it's a very local street festival featuring local artists. So I encourage people to visit that.
And there's some definitely interesting stuff there.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely some very creative minds in Rogers Park. Too many of them in the journalism field, but
yes.
There are a number of true artists who do represent the neighborhood well. At this point, I want to thank you very much, Executive Director of the Rogers Park Community Council, Elizabeth A. Vitell, 1T2Ls. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Avi.
Thanks to my entire technical crew, Sonny. Thanks, Marty. Thanks, everybody, for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.